Is that your father? Or did you just pull him off a street corner to use his disability check? Yeah, that's how she said hello right there on my own front walk. No shame, not even a polite welcome to the neighborhood. You ever get hit with a line so ugly, so nakedly cruel, you can't decide if you should laugh or throw a punch? That was me holding a pillow in a folded blanket suit jacket, still buttoned from a client meeting, standing next to my dad, who was in his wheelchair, looking so much smaller than I ever remembered Parkinson's stealing inches and confidence from a man who once filled every doorway. And here comes this vision hair sprayed into oblivion face, caked in that way only folks who've stared in the mirror too long can manage, and she's wearing a red tracksuit on top of cheetah print pants like a traffic accident that doesn't know which lane to block. The words just hung there sharp and sour in the crisp autumn air. Let me back up a sec. All my life I dreamed of buying a place like this quiet, tree-lined street. Honest brickwork, a front porch just begging for memories. I'd busted my butt to get here, and I'd just brought my dad home so I could care for him in his last years after everything he did for me. But right from minute one, here's this neighborhood watch captain flexing, grilling me about urban types and halfway houses, saying the quiet part out loud. Urban types. You know what I mean, racism so naked it needs sunscreen. I took a deep breath, tried to channel all the calm I'd ever faked in boardrooms. Ma'am, this is my father. He's sick. He's living with me now, so I can take care of him. This is his home, too. She just laughed, acrylic nails waving like traffic cones. I've lived here 40 years, honey, and we have standards, property values, regulations about elements. Like you bringing in all that noise, that crime. The coded language was deafening. My dad, God love him, found a little flicker of the old strength, and in that trembling voice, he just said, "Young lady, that is no way to speak to my son." And for a heartbeat, I thought maybe that would land. Maybe that would remind her he was a person. Nope. She doubled down, told me, "You better learn the rules, boy," hissed about calling the authorities because I was endangering an elderly man. And with a smug little flourish, she pulled out her phone and started stabbing away at 911, painting me as some kind of criminal forcing my dad into the house against his will. Let me tell you the fury that came up inside me. It was like white noise in my ears. I had quit my high-paying job to do right by my dad, had spent weeks turning that house into a safe haven, and now some stranger was weaponizing all that love, making it something monstrous. But the look on my dad's face, the shame, the fear snuffed my anger out in a heartbeat. I had to be the adult in the room for him. I started recording her, said it loud and clear. "Every word you're saying is a lie, and I'm recording it." She glared and just started pouring it on for the dispatcher. "He's threatening me now. He's agitated. Please, you have to hurry." The venom was off the charts, and before I knew it, the sirens were wailing, 2 squad cars screeching to a stop outside red and blue, lighting up my quiet little slice of the American dream. Neighbors peeked out from behind curtains. Doors creaked open. Everybody loves a spectacle, right? 4 cops piled out, hands ready, eyes bouncing between the frantic white lady and the black man in a suit and his elderly dad in a wheelchair. "Sir, step away from the wheelchair," the lead officer called, voice sharp and clipped, and just like that, my own home was a crime scene and my dad and I were the main suspects. I did everything right, kept my hands visible, tried to speak calmly, told them who we were, what was happening. My briefcase right there with all my dad's papers, his discharge forms, power of attorney deed to the house, proof I was who I said I was, proof he wanted to be here. The officers kept me and my dad apart, asked him questions he couldn't answer. Parkinson's, choking his voice, shaking his head in a way that had nothing to do with no. It looked all wrong to the cops. To them, it was a terrified old man and the young, suspicious black guy trying to force him inside. The neighbor kept piling on, talking to another officer, her hands flying, her face a mask of smug, performative fear. Then the worst happened. My dad tried to stand up, maybe to say something, maybe just out of panic, and he fell hard, right onto the concrete. I heard his cry, saw the blood, his arm bent wrong. Time stopped. All the noise, the anger, the shame, it all funneled down to this single moment of pain. I pushed past the cop and dropped to the ground next to my father, apologizing, raging, broken inside. This was supposed to be his safe place, and within minutes he was bleeding, hurt, and afraid. Paramedics came, got him stabilized, and I rode in the ambulance to the ER, the police lights fading behind us, the neighbor probably already rehearsing her next move. In that sterile, fluorescent hell, I signed papers, fielded questions, blamed myself over and over. Should I have ignored her? Should I have just rushed Dad inside? My sister called furious on my behalf, telling me not to take this on myself. This was that woman's doing. And the system that let people like her weaponize fear and racism. The doctor came out concussion fractured wrist overnight for observation. She asked what happened. I told her everything. The neighbor, the accusations, the cops. She just shook her head, made notes, told me the social worker would be in touch. It was elder abuse, but not the kind they'd been called for. The irony stung. Eventually, Dad came home. The house felt strange colder. The pillow and blanket I'd dropped in the chaos were still on the porch. I got him settled, did my best to stay calm for his sake, but the war had just begun. My lawyer, a college friend, absolute bulldog, got the whole story, laid out our options. Civil suit, criminal complaint, ADA violations, slander, harassment. And for the first time since this whole mess started, I felt that spark of hope, the kind you get when you realize you're not alone in the fight. Of course, the neighbor wasn't done. Next came the HOA letter occupancy violations, unapproved wheelchair ramp, threats of fines. She was trying to make my house inaccessible to my father. My lawyer fired off a letter that would make your ears ring, citing every law in the book, promising federal complaints and real consequences if they didn't back down. The HOA paused, but they didn't quit. The neighbor started poisoning the well, with everyone else sending drones to spy on us, using every dirty trick in her playbook. That's when I met old Mr. Turner across the street, dragging his garbage can one morning. He looked around, said quietly, "Don't let her get to you. She's been poisoning this street for decades. Most folks just pay the fines, keep their heads down. Her son's a lawyer, backs her up, keeps everybody scared. You're the first person who's ever stood up to her." And suddenly I realized I wasn't just fighting her, I was fighting a system built to keep people like me out. My lawyer dug in, discovered her son wasn't just a lawyer, but a partner at the firm representing the new development at the end of the block. He was running a shell company, buying up properties for cheap, using her to scare folks off and keep prices down until the big payday. We hit them with every legal tool we had filed. The civil suit racked up the evidence, and when they tried to lowball us at mediation, my lawyer dropped the bomb. Evidence of fraud, property manipulation, a conflict of interest that threatened to take down the whole firm. Everything started to unravel. The law firm fired the son, the developer sued, the HOA board turned on the neighbor, kicked her out, and we settled for a sum that would cover Dad's care for the rest of his life and then some. But none of that compared to the revelation that came next. After the fire, the neighbor's final act of desperate vandalism caught on high-def video, trying to set our house ablaze with us inside, earning herself a prison sentence. The insurance company started digging through the property's history. A city historian named Arthur turned up, piecing together the old records, and what he found floored me. This land, this street, was once Liberty Hill, a thriving black community, destroyed by urban renewal, bulldozed to build this very suburb with my family's name on the deeds. My great-grandfather, William, had owned this land. My dad's stories about a pecan tree and a creek suddenly made sense. The tree still stood in our backyard, a living monument. We'd been driven off our own land 70 years ago, and by some cosmic joke, I'd fought my way back. The neighbor's crusade to protect her neighborhood was really about keeping my family from reclaiming what was stolen from us. That was the real twist. But it didn't stop there. The neighbor's late husband had been a city surveyor, who tried in his own guilty way to help my great-grandfather by telling him to invest his pittance of compensation in a then unknown tech company, a miracle money trust that had quietly grown into a fortune over generations. We'd had wealth and didn't even know it. Our true inheritance was resilience and a little bit of poetic justice courtesy of history. I went public with this story, made sure the world knew about Liberty Hill, the great theft, the fight to reclaim what was ours. The lawsuit settlement rebuilt our home and created a foundation to fight for others facing displacement. The neighborhood changed, the street got its real name back, Promise Road, and Dad got to spend his last year at peace, sitting under the same pecan tree his grandfather once planted. So here's what I wanted to ask you. Do you believe in justice? Do you think it's about revenge or about healing? Have you ever had to fight for your place in the world just to come home again? Drop a comment. Share your story, because maybe the real victory isn't just beating the bad guys. It's reclaiming your future and your past, one hard-fought day at a time.